Welcome, friends. It's time for another Tokenomics. I've got Anton Backman, principal at Play Ventures. I've got
Ciao, ciao.
Mishka Katkoff, the CEO at Savage Game Studio. And myself, Ethan Levy, the EP of Legendary Heroes Unchained at Network. Today on the podcast, we've got two big topics. The massive $280 million launch of Kevin Rose's Moonbirds PFP project, and the even more massive $320 million drop of Yuga Labs' Other Side Land NFTs. And for those following the newsletter, vindication for me as my top prediction about Other Side following their $450 million raise was proved correct. All that and more on today's Tokenomics.
And by the way, PFP, proof for picture, right?
Profile picture.
Profile picture.
Profile
Just making sure with these acronyms, like
Yeah,
I
of
don't want
course.
to throw around too many.
Yeah.
too
Baby
many.
steps. Baby steps.
Baby
Yeah.
steps. We'll make you a crypto bro yet. All right. With that, very exciting. We have our first ever true sponsored Chill Town. Excited about NFTs in the metaverse? Ready to be part of the future of gaming? Recur is looking for talented producers, product managers, game designers, economy designers, and engineers. Recur is building branded NFT collectibles and games with top IP, including college sports, Paramount, Star Trek, Nickelodeon, Sanrio, and more, using its best-in-the-industry technology platform. Recur's platform streamlines the NFT collecting experience. No crypto or third-party wallets required. Simply buy an NFT with your credit card or Apple Pay. And Recur's robust gamification system creates infinite collecting and gameplay possibilities from which to make compelling play-and-earn experiences. Recur is backed by some of the biggest names in crypto and NFTs, including billionaire Stephen Cohn, Gary Vee, and Gemini, among others. Join us now and get ready to ride a rocket ship. Let's fucking go. All right. So now that we've listened to our first ad, I think we've got some plugs ourselves. I'm still hiring on the Legendary Heroes Unchained team. I'm looking for a live ops PM. I've brought on a lot of great people, but if you are a live ops PM or a system designer looking for a new Web3 challenge, please DM me on the Deconstructor of Fun Slack or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Do you guys have anything to shill today?
Anton's always showing the same thing. Just send him pictures,
Hoverboards
of your blockchain game. He'll review it and decline candidly and politely. So I'm just
it's
shilling for you.
obviously this is never investment advice, but keep an eye out on some of the games in our portfolio and their upcoming drops. So really
Which one?
good
Can you name
developers
some?
building interesting things. We have Trailblazer out of Sweden. We have Block Tackle building SkateX out of the US. Everyone free to play veterans, having gone deep down the rabbit hole to get the ropes of everything crypto and Web3, and obviously personally those are the kind of teams that we're interested in working with.
And First Light Games is also launching their first blockchain game. I think it's coming out
Yes, and
actual game, not the
as of today, if you have been a part of the community early on, the alpha has been open for Blast Royale. So instructions in Discord for how to get into the game.
Yeah, awesome. I have nothing to shill. I'm still a white belt here, but I feel like I'm earning my stripes because as we were going through the topics for this podcast, I was comfortably, making notes about layer 1, layer 2, kind of discussing Ethereum 1.0, Ethereum 2.0. So and I wrote you guys a message that just basically saying fuck you because you're turning me into a crypto bro. Slowly but surely, I'm becoming more douche than I was before. Yeah, well, that's the idea of the podcast, is get me to a blue belt. So I think first stripe earned.
I'm starting to feel like you're just pulling the wool over our eyes and getting free consulting from us on how to become a crypto bro. This is
of course. The blue belt will be earned with the DOF NFT drop. Like that is,
Yeah.
I'm like,
And,
you
and
think
if,
it's a
if,
joke?
if we're not if we're not whitelisted with Ethan on the Genesis drop, you know who's going to come knocking on your door.
You're going to be airdropped. You're going to be airdropped the NFT. Of course, we're going to do this project together. That's I'm gonna involve you,
Yes,
and that
sir.
is the true way to get free consulting.
Yeah. All right. So on that, we're doing the first topic today is Moonbirds and how they've mooned to the moon. And this is a PFP project. This is kind of gaming adjacent, but it's really interesting to us on the DOF side as we think about, could we launch a tokenized... Oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to say this. Could we launch a tokenized community for Deconstructor of Fun? Which is basically a way of saying, could we find a way to use NFTs or tokens to do some exclusive stuff that brings value to holders and helps us do more cool media creation?
As long as it's something else than 10,000 different versions of a cartoon Mishka. We're going to be fine.
No, it's got to be Mishka. Doesn't
No,
Mishka mean
no,
teddies or
it has-
something?
It's
10,000
Mishka, it's
different-
Mishka with different hats.
Oh, actually, now that you said the teddy bear idea,
One
I'm
is
actually
wearing a
gonna run
founder
with that,
hat.
but-
One is wearing a podcast host hat. One is wearing an investor hat. You know what I mean?
Rocket teddies. We've got okay. We'll talk Moonbirds so that we can learn about how to launch the Deconstructor Fun rocket teddies. Okay, so let me give you the context. If you follow the space, you're probably familiar with Kevin Rose. He's one of the co-founders of Dig, and he's really big into various NFT projects. He's made his name in the space with a Proof podcast and an NFT community called the Proof Collective. And now he's parlayed that success into a massive $280 million launch for the Moonbirds PFP project. Here's a quote from the Decrypt article that shared that $280 million figure. I mean, like, it's actually a little hard to figure out how to value how much money they actually made from different things. It's weird to value it, but they're the one who gave $280 million. And they said, Proof Collective ultimately released 7,875 of the NFTs for sale via an allow list, which was formed via a raffle process. Each Moonbird NFT offered via that process was sold for 2.5 ETH, about $7,600 at the time of Saturday's sale. Another 2,000 of the images were granted as free mints to holders of the Proof Collective NFT membership pass, which starts at a price above 97 ETH. So Proof Collective is a tokenized community. They sold an NFT, and it's basically access to a private Slack or a private Discord that you have to hold the NFT to have. They launched it. There are only 1,000 of these passes. And if you want into the community right now, it'll cost you over $280,000. So the collective has gotten airdrops of previous projects, or the ability to mint previous projects. For the Moonbirds, Proof Collective members were able to mint 2, and they're promising research. So they're promising exclusive alpha on NFT projects. They're promising an annual conference. That's like proof that Proof Collective is where I got the word tokenized community. And I think, as horrible as it feels to say those words out loud, there is some inspiration there for us. Some other context on Moonbirds, that on April 25th, Moonbird 2,642 sold for 350 ETH. That's $1 million. It sold on OpenSea, and the buyer was the Sandbox. So this is kind of a marketing stunt in a way. Sandbox generated a headline, but Sandbox is super rich in many cryptocurrencies, from the success in selling land and NFTs and the success of the Sand token. So what is Moonbirds? It's 10,000. They say okay. Picture for proof. Okay, you were right. I've heard it both ways, I guess, Mishka. So Mishka vindicated right now. On their website, they say picture for proof. I've heard it as profile pics, and maybe I've been wrong the whole time.
It's picture for proof.
Picture for proof. You're ready to take my black belt away?
Yeah.
I think both are adequate.
I'm not going to take a black belt. I'm just going to take another stripe.
Okay, so what is it? It's 10,000 procedurally generated bird. Each bird, owls. Each owl unlocks private club membership and additional benefits the longer you hold them. We call it nesting. So they're calling their version of staking nesting. And their website and their roadmap promises kind of a future metaverse that they're building. So it's very, you buy a JPEG, and the JPEG will give you access to a Discord and future stuff. And from this, they raised $280 million. So the question for you, Mishka, you've been DMing me incessantly about how we can ape in to something like this. Does this inspire you? Does this make you want to build a, quote, tokenized community, unquote? And what would that look like?
Yeah. So yes, of course. Now let me kind of like take a step back and let's zoom in for all the listeners. It's not about DOF. It's just about we're having a conversation of how to build a tokenized community, and you can do this for games. You can do it for anything that you're doing, even if you have a community right now. So the title of this episode is Building a Tokenized Community. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to use DOF just as an example of our own thinking, just because it's an easy way for us to kind of ground ourselves. And of course, Moonbirds is an example. So why I'm interested is in terms of, because I'm kind of like reading, I was going through what Proof was, what Moonbirds is, and in terms of us, like we have a content, we have a network for games professionals by game professionals. On the Slack group, we have like 1,000 people, and there could be a lot more. We're just accepting like maybe 1/5 of the applicants. And
You've got a big bouncer in front of that velvet rope.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to name the bouncer. But anyway, why I'm really interested about this tokenized community is because it allows you to build a core community that can help to steer the content creation. Now, another interesting part about it is, of course, you can raise funds to level up your community. So, and finally, like depending, of course, on what kind of a content you're producing. In this case, Kevin Rose, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kevin Rose was talking about kind of like reliance on ad drip. And sorry, just using Deconstructor of Fun as an example, we don't have reliance on ad drip, even though we have ads. They're more like a bonus. But if you want to invest more into your product, then you become more reliant on the ad drip, and then it's a slippery slope to a point where I don't want to disrespect anybody, but you start looking like VentureBeat, where it's like ads on ads on ads, and it's really hard to even read the article, and you're kind of shilling all the time for companies.
Right. Deconstructor of Fun isn't powered by ads. It's actually powered by passion, right? Like we're doing – you're not paying me for blog posts. I'm just doing it because I'm like, I want to share with my colleagues. And same with the newsletter pieces. Same with this. I mean, we do have ads, but we're not. Nobody is making a full-time salary off a Deconstructor of Fun. It's just like a little.
We're just sharing alpha across the channels.
But then again, of course, there's a revenue share model for those who make content on regular intervals, etc. Anyways, that's our model. Now going back to,
but there's a couple. There's a couple of other examples I want to highlight on a couple of tokenized communities that have now been around for roughly a year. One is a bit of a more Web3 native one called Friends with Benefits. It's also one that Andreessen invested in. And if you hold a certain amount of the benefit token, as it is called, then it's then you're part of that group, and they have their own social channels. They have their own real life events where they try to bring interesting people also to attend, and then it's more of a private club in a sense that is a bit more scattered. The other one I thought was interesting was. Nelk Boys,
Z-Friends.
So the guys who did Full Send podcast, they raised roughly 23 million with their NFT drop, where they dropped this kind of exclusive passes on being part of this Nelk Boys community. I look at it a bit like, Patreon on steroids in a way, that and because they feel like they're part owners in what's happening in Nelk Boys, the price point is very different from having these small Patreon subscription tiers. And I think they sold like a couple of thousand passes maybe, and still raised 23 million. So I think that's pretty close to the 1,000 true fans, as I believe it's Chris Dixon from Andreessen that has been talking about that, where you can have substantial revenues from a really, really loyal user base, albeit that it's a small fan base or user base.
And of course the granddaddy of this is Gary V with VFriends. I mean, let's give respect where respect is due, guys. Come on. Anyways, like Moonbirds, this was an example that came actually from Shahaf, and Shahaf was on a podcast, like maybe an episode or two from the time that this airs, so you can go back to that. And he's been in the industry but in the Web3 sector since really the beginning. So that was kind of his alpha towards me. I hate saying that. I'm not going to say alpha anymore. I'm just going to say insight. Anyway, so what I like about the Kevin Rose's model was that it was very iterative, because people really focus on like, 280 million raised. Like, this is it. Like, this is all about money. But when he kind of walks you back of where it started, was like the podcast, so basically content creation, and that podcast, and that was focusing on a lot of NFT projects that were happening and sharing insights. Sharing insights about all these different projects, and then kind of guiding people to join these NFT projects. And that led into the Proof Collective. So that tokenized community of 1,000 kind of like, hardcore fans and members of this community. And they were doing a lot of things for the community, and a lot of things, of course, regarding these NFT projects. And only later on, they got into a phase where they did the Moonbirds project, or Moonbirds DAO, or Moonbirds NFT. So it has been a road, and the Kevin Rose doesn't come from nothing. Like a founder of Dig, and at some point Dig had like 32 million monthly active users, something like that. So
I used to wake up. I tried to game their algorithm to get on the front page a couple times. I used to wake up the minute. To be online the minute a new zero punctuation dropped, so that I could be the one to post it on Dig, so that I could get like the karma for my account by getting on the front page. And all that effort. I don't think I even know how to log into my Dig account anymore if anybody's using it.
I don't think anybody is using it, but definitely he gained a lot of experience. And when he was talking about Dig, he said 32 million monthly active users. They had maybe 50 people working for Dig, and they were still not profitable. So this kind of a thing kind of came around that thinking is also the aspect is like, how can they be profitable? How can they get rid of the ad drip and the ad model, and how they can get into a place where they do have this strong community, where they have people, but they are funding it in a different way, in a way that brings value to the community. So that kind of leads to like where we are right now. I mean, we have been doing content for 10 years. We have a pretty sizable community. I was actually going through some numbers for a different reason for DOF, and we were actually reaching, for the last couple of months, we've been reaching 100,000 unique people a month through all the different channels. So it's pretty big for we're not Nelk
I
boys,
call that the Ethan Levy effect. When you give me a podcast, that's what happens.
Since actually that coincides pretty closely to Ethan Levy joining.
When you get me and Cress fighting on a podcast, it's just audio gold. It's audio gold.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to break anybody's bubble, but it's really the podcast that is driving a lot of podcasts, but the blog that is still driving a lot of interaction. But yes, events, blog, newsletter has been a big thing. It has grown quite a lot. The podcast, I mean, everything has been growing. So we have a community. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
We have the content, and we have proof that we've been able to deliver content at increasing pace because we have just grown the community. The community comes to the content creation. So in many ways, we're quite decentralized. Like, I know you guys make fun of me as like it's yeah, go ahead.
what do you think are some of these more premium features that you could that DOF could offer to the token holders?
Okay, so let's go to these models, the kind of like options that we've been thinking, and I'm not taking props of any of these models. This is coming from the community inside the Slack channels, inside some of the private conversations that we've been having. I'm not going to name any names because everybody works at different company, so I'm not going to say like this guy from your company is actually planning like different web strategies.
I just realized we're going to have to kick everybody out of Slack and make them buy an NFT to get back.
No. The way it actually works is in Discord. People will be joining to the Discord channel, right, and it will be automatically authenticated through the NFT. So through that PFP, proof for picture, that is the authentication. Anyway, I've looked into it. I'm not a white belt without no stripes anymore.
You've got those stripes.
I can talk my talk. So basically, there's kind of three options that have been outlined. Like the one is sort of an inspiration from the last event. It's like, hey, we'll have NFTs and there are tickets for event. So it is a ticket. It's an NFT. The biggest benefits are that the purchasers can easily sell these tickets online if they no longer want to attend or can't attend because it's in a country that is far away. Now, DOF will make some revenue each time the NFT trades hands, and these attendees will have a lifelong proof that they were at the epic DOF blockchain gaming Miami Beach event. So that's DOF, option one.
DOF events will always have 100 spots that are only reserved for token holders, and that drop is being done once.
Yes.
No, I'm just throwing out some additional ideas here. So there's a small quota for the token holders. They always have a spot at the events.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Imagine that instead of a public event where you stream everything, if you had 100 people on a boat and everybody's got to put their cell phone in a box before the conference part starts, and you imagine the conference we would have if it was 100 real game developers and no recording. We'd say some different stuff.
Yeah, it would be like the pre-recording.
But this because I think this ticket thing is or this access thing is potentially one of the for real life events. It could be a cool use case for NFT renting. So let's say I want to invest in a deconstructor fund ticket, but I might not make it to all of the events. There might be someone locally who wants to join, so I put it out for rent for a couple of days, and they can join the event with that one.
Exactly.
And interestingly enough, this is not investment advice, but we're invested in ReNFT, which is a protocol currently deployed on Polygon, looking to deploy on Solana, and they're basically building now this automation layer for NFT rentals across different products.
So kind of going through like a ticket concept, and again, just take a look. We're using DFT just as an example as we're talking about tokenized economy and how you can think about doing it. So in this case, it's great because it gives access, and access is of course the probably number one form of benefit from having an NFT. And the holders are definitely feeling that they're part of a community because they have priority access. But at the same time, unless your organization or unless your community is all about events, it's kind of you creating yourself a treadmill of events. And if you've never done an event, they're not walk in the park. Like you can do a meetup in a pub, but that's not an event. That's not, right. That's not what based on the last one people are kind of expecting. If there's no smoke machines, if there's no custom animations that kick off, if there's no, top tier speakers flying for all the world, that's not the event that people are expecting. So that's kind of like right. NFT as a ticket, as a concept. Then option number 2 is similar, but a little bit different, where you use NFT as a member card. And you become a member of a collective. And this is what Nelk Boys has with the Nelk Boys' NFT, which is called the Meta Card. Now, what happens is in these type of tokenized, I don't know with Nelk Boys if they do it, but basically you get a gated access to a Discord. Now, in this through this Meta Card or through this DOF coin, DOF card, whatever you want to call it, through this NFT, you get access to extra content. So maybe you'll get some podcast outtakes. Maybe you have like monthly calls or AMAs with Ethan Levy, and Anton Backman.
All the
maybe-
we cut out all the things where I say that joke will get us canceled,
Yeah.
and then you get to listen to that.
Yeah, maybe not to that one, not to that type of content, but maybe something different. There will be an invite-only meetups, and the fun part about this is you can do it. Like I was just one of the people in the community, actually a few people from the community connected with me today, and they were talking about arranging a DOF event in Barcelona, since there's so many people in our community from Barcelona, and they were all excited. And these guys are from different big companies in the area. I mean, it's a huge gaming hub, so. If you're an NFT holder, guess what? You have that community, and now you can arrange your community events there. And because there's some money that usually comes in with this sort of NFT sales, that the part of that fund can be used to support an event. So if they want to do a meetup in Barcelona, we're going to be like, hey, you know what? This pub over there, not pub, I don't know what they call pubs in Barcelona. This restaurant over in Barcelona, guess what? Everything is paid for. You got a tab on DOF. Get some pinchos, get some sangria, start dancing on the tables.
Are you saying that we can set up a fund to fly me to Barcelona so that I can get some sweet tapas, which I love?
Yeah, exactly. That's what the fund will be used. So in that sense, it's again adding more value
used to correct my horrible Spanish accent.
Good luck, Ethan, with your 3 kids flying to Barcelona. Like, let's be honest. There's already Javier Barnes in Barcelona, so he'll handle it. Anyways, when we're talking about these NFTs, it's a lifelong, unless you sort of customize it or burn after a certain amount of time, through that you can actually start doing like different NFT seasons, and then I don't know, I think it goes kind of to a weird place, or maybe that's like the evolution of everything. But most importantly, there's no need to spend on any fancy art. You kind of don't need an art at all if the JPEGs are just a piece of metadata.
What did I say?
But most likely there will be art.
Rocket teddies.
Most likely there will be art, because we also have art directors in the DOF community already right now, so we can give somebody an NFT if they create one of these art pieces with 1,000 variabilities. But at the same time, when you go in with option 1, where you have a membership card, you have to expect that you will have somebody who manages the community, because you have to maintain engagement. Well, that's kind of like self-maintained already. But at the same time, you have to manage access. You have to troubleshoot any kind of different issues. And you've set up a Discord channel with paid members, so there's some overhead that is a part of it.
Basically, it sounds like free to play. It basically sounds like you need to pull this off. You need to do live ops, essentially.
Yeah, well, to some extent, like when I was listening to Rose's kind of like definition of what they do with Proof Collective, not a lot. It's considered more like a PvP game where people are creating the content themselves. It's like a battle royale if you have 100 people on there, and everybody's senior and everybody has paid in. So it is a Discord channel with a lot of conversations, but there's still some amount of overhead that has to be maintained. And kind of going through option number 3. So if the first one is just a ticket, the second one is NFT with benefits. Let's put it this way. The third one, which is kind of like the everything, is DAO. So this is very murky. It could be anything from very simple, just a way to engage with the community, to vote on different things, or more complex version where entire DOF organization or whatever community you have is receiving funds, paying bills, commissioning work, and all of that is governed through the DAO. And the way it works is you have a governance tokens. In this case, they will be, of course, called fun coins. They will be distributed based on contribution. So whether it's research, blog posts, podcasts, editing, transcription, art, design, the distribution or the airdrops will go through the community vote. Like small issues, like did Ethan actually write this post, and how did Anton actually do the editing for it? Then there would be like 2 to 3 community members. They need to agree in order to distribute these tokens. The spent on the governance tokens to vote on big issues like, should we hire someone to transcribe and translate all the Tokenomics episode? Should we hire a professional editor to make the sound quality better, etc.? Should we buy Ethan some decorations?
Do you like
in the
it when
background,
Crest tells Ethan to shut the fuck up?
Yeah, well, not in that kind of a stuff, but definitely like something that
it can be anything. DAOs can vote on anything.
Yeah, and the good part about DAO is that it allows incentivizing people to contribute to the community because you're essentially rewarding them out of this central chest. The problem that I see in DAO is it sounds like fucking European Union, and it's a nightmare. There's too many people making too many decisions on a bunch of things that don't need to have people making decisions on. So I'm like categorically I sound like a Republican. I'm against big government, and when I was going through the description of DAO, that sounds like exactly what a big government is. Liberal. Yeah, I think that's a liberal take on things, right? So yeah. Personally, I'm more inclined to sort of an NFT that allows you to build that very strong core community. Where people have certain benefits of being a part of this central community. And I think that's a great first step because from there on, you can start going and investing into the next stages of Web3 development. But just like with Alex's case, it's like that's the proof collective. I think 1,000 is too much. I'm more inclined to 300, mainly because, of course, I mean, the 300, the Spartans, come on.
So that's what I thought of immediately.
But Mishka, I have good news for you if you're afraid it's going to be European Union. So similar to how there's a bit of a less explored consensus mechanism across chains, also known as, because we know proof of work, we know proof of stake. There's also delegated proof of stake, and it's just showing that we're doing this whole 360 here, understanding that democracy is probably the least rotten way of deciding things. So, I mean, if you want to structure the Deconstructor Fund DAO in a way where, let's say, the voting power is delegated to a smaller group of people that the community trusts, then that's fully doable.
Oh, that's interesting, and we are quite transparent. Like all the, for example, with the sponsorships and all the revenue, like the contracts are distributed to people so they can actually, so the content creators see the money coming in and the money going out. So we have elements of this type of a thing. And in many ways, like I really enjoyed, I'll be honest. I didn't enjoy listening to this podcast on Bankless. We're going to add the link, the Bankless with Kevin Rose and talking about Moonbirds because it was tough. The guys were so crypto bros.
If you think I'm a shill crypto bro, like go listen to the real shill crypto bros and you'll be like, Eden is like a mild pepper and they're like a ghost pepper.
Well, exactly. I mean, Sufred said it nicely, like in the previous twig, where he actually gave you a lot of props in terms of like you're still very balanced, even though you're bullish, but you're still very balanced. But nevertheless, I think it's interesting way to think about tokenized communities, and that's why we wanted to break it down here. Of course, we talked about DOF as an example, but just disregard DOF. It just DOF because you're listening to this. It could work with anything. Right.
Yeah, it actually, as you went through all that, guilds are such a critical part of most mid-core live ops games, which is, I've worked from hyper casual to mid-core core, and in the games I've worked the most on is mid-core, and guilds are a big part of it. And one of the things that upsets guilds and guild leaders the most, in my experience, has been when there are changes made that upset their strategy or planning that they weren't aware of or didn't see coming, because in the guilds, they spend a lot of time planning for events. So you could imagine, or what I started picturing, and this is something you could do with or without tokens. I think the tokens angle is really interesting. Is I could imagine airdropping 50 tokens to the guild leaders, or 50 NFTs to the guild leaders of my top 50 guilds, and maybe that's it. No revenue. Just like, here you go. Here it is. When you own this token, you get access to this Discord channel. Once a week or once every other week, the developers will get on a call that only people in this channel can access, and we'll go over and we will share our event changes to you ahead of time for feedback. in these, right? So like not even going as far as governance and not making it a revenue play, just saying like, hey, if you own this token, which we airdrop to you for being part of the community, we're going to start talking to you. And if you don't value that, you can sell it to somebody who does. And you get the 95% of the revenue from it. We only get 5%. And this is the way we're establishing our trusted council of our most devoted players. Like that, as I say it out loud and I take the revenue angle out of it, it gets really interesting to me. I mean, you can do the same thing without the tokens. I just think that the tokens, if you know prospect theory, or you like read a lot of behavioral economics like I do, prospect theory is one of the like foundational ideas. And when somebody holds something, they value it more, right? Mm-hmm. So like just saying you have access to a private channel that nobody else doesn't give a human as much good feelies as if you said you own this thing and it gives you the private access. And if you want to sell it, you can. But like that ownership will give you more good feelies. Happy to talk prospect theory with anybody in the future.
Yeah, and before we move to the next topic, I just wanted to get your clarification. What do you mean by tokens and NFTs? Like, do you in terms of building a community?
Oh, so NFTs are a form of token, right? There's fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens. And so, you could do this by saying, hey, we're minting the DOF token. There's going to be an issue of 50. They're all the same. And you can swap them on SushiSwap. That's what you would do with a fungible token. A non-fungible token is we're minting 50 passes. They have a serial number 1 through 50 in different art. That's what makes them different. So I've realized, like, sometimes I say token when I want to more specifically say non-fungible token.
Got it. Well, that's it.
Speaking of non-fungible tokens.
Yeah.
Should we move on to?
Speaking of that,
yes. Yeah.
Move on. Any feedback on, by the way, on tokenized communities, just hit us up on info@deconstructorfun, or if you're on the Slack channel, just hit us up of what do you think about this particular example and how would you approach
is that initiative going to be called the decentralizer of fun?
That's actually a good one. Good. Wow.
So we're going to decentralize fun.
Another one.
It's fantastic.
Another rocker. Like he came up with Istanbulish and now with this. Weird. So anyway,
I'll be a brand consultant in my next life.
So I'm gonna tease Mishka a bit in this one because I want to talk about Yuga Labs' other side, and I want to say I was vindicated. You gave me a lot of heat on my newsletter prediction piece. I believe you said, Ethan, stop being such a crypto shill. I can't endorse these opinions. You didn't say that.
I didn't apologize. I was like extremely. My comments were shitty. Like sometimes I also have shitty days, and I say bad things, and then I was like, you know what, Ethan, I love you. I'm sorry.
it's the fathers of young children. I understand the having a bad night of sleep, maybe due to some crying or some wetting of beds, and having a bad morning as a result. So, anyways, in March, we talked about Other Side, which is the forthcoming MMO/metaverse from the Bored Ape Yacht Club maker Yuga Labs. We talked about it following their $450 million raise. I also wrote a prediction piece for the newsletter. So if you're not signed up for the newsletter, in the newsletter we put pieces that we don't post on the blog always. So it's a great piece to get that alpha. Let me read you a quote. I made 3 predictions, and here was my number 1 prediction. Unlike traditional game development, the ability to generate revenue on Web3 projects can be divorced from the release and operation of the game software itself. As such, I predict that Yuga Labs will make millions in primary and secondary revenue in the NFT sales of Codas, land, and other NFTs for its Other Side metaverse. This will likely be a profitable venture years before the game is actually playable. And look, here we are. It's a few weeks later, They've done their crazily successful NFT land drop for Otherside, and let me give you a quote from Bloomberg. Yuga Labs, the creator of the popular Bored Apes Yacht Club collection of NFTs, launched a sale on Saturday of virtual land related to its highly anticipated metaverse project, raising about $320 million worth of cryptocurrency in the largest offering of its kind. Demand was so strong that activity related to the event caused ripple effects across the entire Ethereum blockchain, disrupting activity and sending transaction fees soaring. So, as I predicted, massive business success, a great, ApeCoin, which didn't exist a couple weeks ago, is one of the top tokens in the world, has over it's got a couple $1 billion market cap. They've got this huge new NFT collection on the other side. And let me tell you a little bit about the sale. There were 55,000 land parcels sold for 305 ApeCoin each. So that's about $6,000 was about the cost on the day of, and it was only accessible to approved wallets. 45,000 land deeds were allocated to Bored Ape Yacht Club and Mutant Ape Yacht Club holders, and they're reserving another 100,000 parcels of land to be awarded later. Gas fees went insane. It crushed the Ethereum network. I think I saw somebody saying like a gas fee was $4,000, $5,000. People in the Discord in our Slack community said I avoided this just because of the gas fees. So
yeah, and you had. I mean, this was across Ethereum, so you had people trading NFT worth $500 and paying gas fees for several thousand. So yeah, a bit of a mess.
So this one has been a pretty Ethan and Mishka heavy episode. So Anton, let me ask you for your opinion. What went right here? What went wrong here? And I know there was a lot of controversy on Twitter following the sale. What was the controversy?
So maybe starting what went right. I don't think it's a very long list. I think it's mostly from the perspective of Yuga Labs and the revenues they were able to make. Now, obviously, going up to this amount of gas fees that people were paying, I think there was earlier a statement issued by Yuga Labs they were going to refund this gas. But if we start piecing a bit on what went wrong there. So obviously one thing was the interest towards this sale. I think Yuga even said that, not beyond their wildest expectations, but I would, that's bullshit. Obviously they knew that there was going to be a lot of demand for this. And they had some problematic statements actually later, but I'll get to that in a moment. But technically what went wrong here is that the smart contracts that Yuga was using, they had near zero gas optimizations in their code. There was a great thread on Twitter by Will Papper, who is co-founder of Syndicate DAO, and he's been doing a lot of smart contract gas optimization previously, and he outlined more technical specs in his Twitter thread on what actually went wrong here. But according to his calculations and his kind of suggestions for improvement that he had for the contracts that Yuga was using, they could have more or less saved 90% of the gas fees that were being spent. So in simple terms, Yuga allowed people to spend too much gas on these transactions, and they could have sort of reduced that amount by a fair amount, even though they had these KYC'd wallet procedures in place where they were whitelisting addresses for this sale, but it went off the hook anyway. An interesting thread posted by Yuga Labs later, where they quote wanted to say a few words about the mint, obviously going through the different steps that kind of went wrong there. But this was the most interesting one, and I'm paraphrasing this tweet. We're sorry for turning off the lights on Ethereum for a while, it seems abundantly clear that ApeCoin will need to migrate to its own chain in order to properly scale. We'd like to encourage the DAO to start thinking in this direction. So the interesting thing about this tweet is that it spurred a lot of controversy on Twitter, because Yuga Labs can't with a straight face say that they wouldn't have expected Ethereum congestion with this sale.
Right.
There are tried and proven blockchains that can handle this sort of scale. We could be looking at Ronin, for example, that are more now, despite the problem with their bridge, still battle tested in terms of what they can handle, not congest on fees or an activity, and that I saw several tweets and discussions online about kind of suggesting that this was a way for Yuga to
justify their own chain,
justify their own chain and their own solution. And obviously, that's again, if they would do that, it's again a revenue event for the company, and it's gonna if they do it their own layer 1 or layer 2, it's gonna mean money for them. But that left clearly a bit of a salty taste with many people, that this should not be used as a way to kind of try to convince your users to migrate to your own chain, because obviously people are paying 100 million to Ethereum validators. I mean, they were the ones who were laughing their way to the bank. But so all in all, pretty messy, bad PR. I don't know how long that's going to last. There was a couple of bigger discussions about people starting to sell their Yuga Labs assets, etc. But I don't think that's. I think we're talking about very few.
The floor price on other deeds right now looks like double the minting cost. So
yeah, and then maybe a smaller thing I found interesting with the sale. There was also obviously with the expectation that the land or the deeds you're getting have certain traits to them, but multiple people started posting the traits that they had paid $6,000 plus the gas fee for, and they had 0 traits, 0 coda, and nothing. So
I was
so they
seeing
felt
that.
they felt a bit empty-handed.
Yeah, from a design standpoint, this does not feel like it was a very rewarding. It was too punishing and not rewarding enough, right? Like if I spent $10,000 on a thing, and I mean I saw someone say, I love my piece of land so much, and there are 6 traits, and it said artifact none, coda none, S resource none. So 3 of the 6 traits they had nothing. And I just like when you think of game design, a very common, I can't remember where I got this piece of advice, but something it's struck with me for years. I think maybe from Tracy and Chris in college like 20 years ago. It's like you can take almost anything and frame it as a carrot or a stick, as a reward or a punishment, and humans like carrots a lot more than sticks. So like there is a way to have designed these, like getting none is a punishment, right? Getting some trait that provides some value, even if it's the lowest tier value and it's and most common in the system, would make you feel infinitely better about your plot of land than getting artifact none, coda none. Like instead of you need to find a way to make codas, like landing a coda, feel like a bonus. I mean, so like actually one way to do it would have been to have a trait called bonus or resource, and everybody is guaranteed 2 resources. And and a lot of people get turnips, but some people get codas, right? So at least somebody goes, hey, I got turnip as my resource, not I got no coda. Just, game design, you have to just think about how to frame things as rewards and not punishments. Because, like, I would be pissed if I spent $10,000 on that. I would never tell my wife about that $10,000.
Yeah,
that would be one of
I would hide that
that was
financial
clear from
secret.
those Twitter discussions where people were posting their empty deeds.
Yeah.
That,
Can I
doesn't feel
pick
good.
up from where Anton left, because you talked a lot about the practicalities, and I think, like, on a high level, this whole incident of kind of renews the conversation or the question about whether these smart contract network is up to the challenges the new businesses is built on it. So meaning that the issue is that there's a lot of money being poured into Web3. That's why most of the people are listening to this podcast, because there's just so much money in it. And the fact is that the whole industry or branch or whatever you will, Web3 is very much in the infancy, yet investors want to see it scale up already. And we're seeing these issues with smart contract networks as it is. Now, we talk about the gas prices, which is, again, why do you say gas price when it's transaction cost? There's literally a word for it. So I'm going to use the word transaction cost for people to kind of understand it. And the big issue is actually Ethereum as a layer 1 protocol. And Ethereum is kind of known for very high transaction fees and slow execution speed, and that has been well documented through multiple sources, and that is why they're actually coming up with Ethereum 2.0 that will have sharding that should limit the transaction fees by breaking down the transaction to multiple. Anyways, but at the same time, they've been saying that the Ethereum 2.0 is coming, and it's 4 to 6 months away for a long time. Now, because of this massive demand, and because of Ethereum's, high transaction fees due to slow execution speed, that caused the gas fees to spike up. So gas is transaction fee. And then when the Ethereum fee spiked up, that cost higher than actual cost of purchasing of the underlying NFTs themselves. So you were actually paying more for the transaction than for the actual item you're getting through the transaction. Now, even the craziest thing that when you go through this, for people who haven't minted, the craziest thing is that you have to pay this transaction fee even if your transaction fails. So I don't know if any of the listeners or you guys use Sneaker app from Nike. So basically when Nike drops a new sneaker like 10 a.m. on Saturday, you have to sort of like pay for it, and they fund you the money back if you didn't get the Jordan 1s, the rare drop of your size. Now imagine, like, if this would work in the same way, I would pay my 170 euros for the Jordan 1s that sell on StockX for 350 or 450, but I wouldn't get it. Like, normally you don't get it because they're rare. But nevertheless, Nike would take my 170 euros. They're like, thanks, dude. Good luck the next time.
To use the transaction fee, it would be like if it cost 170 euros and they sent you back 120 because 50 was the transaction fee.
Yes. Right? Yeah. Exactly.
Not all the money was destroyed, but a really big part of it was.
A really big part, and that is the craziest thing. That should give you the perspective of how much of an infancy this whole Web3 is still, because of these high transaction costs. And actually, the good projects in Web3, they are regularly refunding the transaction fees for failed transactions. So if Ethan goes, he tries to buy something for 5,000, ends up paying the gas fee only, and doesn't even get the NFT, then in this case you would have gotten back your transaction fee. So you ended up with not spending on anything since you didn't get anything. Now the reasons, and that's what Anton was talking about, like the blockchain that Yuga Labs would be building, is because having like layer 1 blockchain, layer 1 meaning Solana, Ethereum, Avalanche, any of these, having that one. Okay, so just a step back. So layer 1 is Solana, Avalanche, and so forth, and then when you build on top of it, that's called layer 2. So, for example, Yuga's Ape coin is layer 2 on layer 1 being Ethereum, and the US future coin, the fun coin, would be on layer 2 on something.
No,
am I correct, Ethan?
No. Layer 2 is like when you're on Polygon, which is a network on top of Ethereum. So I'm pretty sure, I'm going to check right now, but just to
mix this up a bit still, I think Polygon is widely considered not anymore being a sort of layer 2, but it's a distinct distinct layer one, but it borrows a lot from Ethereum's code. It's essentially a fork of Ethereum.
Okay. Thank you.
And they get to piggyback, but if you look at there used to be a solution called Plasma, some other ones, then you're talking about something that is built on top or around Ethereum, if you will, where transactions take a step outside of the main chain and then they return back to the main chain where they've been back somewhere else.
It's like layer 1.5.
ApeCoin is a coin on layer 1, right?
Yeah.
If I if I am trading someone my ETH for their ApeCoin, that transaction happens on the Ethereum network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if they would now consider their own chain, then it could very well be sort of an Ethereum derivative again, an Ethereum fork. So essentially, it's its own layer 1 again. Or then they might decide on building on some layer 2. But they would basically form their own layer 1.
Got it. And the reason for that is like they would avoid these high transaction fees and would be able better to cater to the demand of the public. And we've seen these examples happening before because Dapper Labs actually did this. It took them, I think, 2 years, and they now launched their own blockchain called Flow. The verdict is out on it, whether it's good or not, whether it solved all the problems that they were having or they perceived that they would be having. But
yeah, and we've seen this a few times, and the whole Dapper or Flow was the result of CryptoKitties congesting Ethereum in 2018. You had
Ronin for
Axie moving on to Ronin because they just couldn't fit on Ethereum anymore. But again, this was not news for Yuga, but it was a very weird way for them to now allegedly justify their own chain. And but it's a way to get control as well, because if you're looking at something like Ronin, arguably it's not very decentralized if there's under 10 validators that are able to control what's happening on the chain, or if they're kind of the weak link. So I mean, it's always going to be a trade-off between how secure it is and how fast it is. Says you can't have both of those, because the more so to speak people you want to validate what's happening, the slower it's going to get, because it is kind of a physical limitation for these chains. So I think that's debunked. So there used to be this discussion of a leading layer 1 and which one is going to be the one chain to rule them all, if you will. If there's going to be one, it's likely Ethereum, but I don't believe it's for the reasons that people believe. I think because it's already shown that if you have one runaway success, an app that has a lot of usage, it's likely going to need its own chain. And it doesn't make sense that a transaction that is worth 10 cents needs the same security requirements as a transaction worth 1 million. So I think where Ethereum will be an important go-to-market chain, because it has an existing community, it has proven tech, a lot of different tools and platforms built to it. But when products find product market fit, they find escape velocity, they're going to have to look for other solutions. Now, obviously, there's new options coming to the market all the time. You have stuff like Polygon, and they're also moving into a bit of a similar direction as Avalanche with a subnet solution, where basically you launch, essentially you launch a new chain for each specific application, or a new chain for a specific type of use case, where kind of the transaction patterns are quite similar, so you can tailor that to that experience. And then the consensus is brought from kind of a shared layer underneath all of those subchains. But that tech is still in development.
And that's why it's so important when you're making that choice of the blockchain. Exactly the reasons how you underlined and understanding your product, but it's still, easy to make mistakes because you don't know what the demand would be, and how many transactions people are doing, etc. Overall, I wanted to finish up my part just by quoting Anand Agrawala, CEO and co-founder of Spatchill. It's a virtual gallery for metaverse services, and the quote was like, the challenge with selling land model is that incentives aren't always aligned. Many people buy land as an asset and try to maximize price, while creators who can actually develop amazing experiences in it get priced out, and you end up with lots of empty lots. So basically speculators. This was an interesting quote, kind of resonated with me.
I mean,
what do you think, Ethan?
That quote kind of assumes a sandbox or decentralized style metaverse that's intended for creators. If you go back to our Yuga Labs pitch deck episode or my newsletter piece, it looks more like they want to build an MMO, like a World of Warcraft, which isn't like Sandbox or Roblox where people are building experiences. So, I mean, I agree there are many potential problems with selling land before the product is out. I think they're going to have a different problem. I don't think the problem of other deeds is that I'm not going to be able to create anything that people want to do on my land. I think the problem is, as I predicted in the newsletter piece, is it's going to be very hard to build an MMO that achieves their ambitions, and it might not be 2020 till 2027 till other side is playable, right? And so it's like, when will these land plots have in-game utility? I think it's going to be a long time. So I just I just like don't. This quote, I think, is making an assumption about what other deeds are for that I don't think matches the information from the leaked pitch deck.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to kind of even get your take on it because it was an interesting quote. Resonated as a quote itself. Yeah,
for sure. So let's close this segment out. Let's take a bet. In what year and quarter will other side be playable? First playable.
2020. Now it's 2022. 2024 Q3.
The full playable of the full game or the mini game that's going to be announced next year.
First, when will other side be first playable? Whichever.
Oh, a mini game. Okay, yeah.
I didn't.
I mean,
no. Let's not count the mini games because it's that's the easy way out. That's what Star Atlas did. They pushed the roadmap back with a year and said we're coming out with a mini game instead.
Yeah. Did a one sprint to launch some kind of a breeding game.
Yeah. All right.
2024.
2024. I'll take what is it now? I'll take Q3 2027. It's going to take a long time to build an MMO.
I'll land somewhere in between. I say Q2 2025.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Winner gets a steak dinner from the other two. We'll have to meet in person.
Actual or metaverse steak?
No. Real steak.
It's a Zoom dinner where we'll just participate in some staking contracts.
Oh, no. All right, let's close it out. This has been a great episode. Let's close it out with some new hotness. I have no new token assets. I have been too busy selling a piece of real land and buying a piece of real land. So I did a real land transaction in the real universe, and we're downsizing to a smaller house with a great family-friendly neighborhood. And I've been too busy with real land to mess around with fake land. So no new tokens for me. Mishka, have you added any tokens? Do you have your first token?
Coin.
What?
Crypto.com's own coin. Something like that.
Right. That's your first token. Wow.
No,
you have the credit card, Mishka? You get those as cashbacks.
Yeah. You have to hold for I think a year, and then you get the card. So I was incentivized by the card, and our little household has held first Bitcoin since 2014. So.
Wow.
Relax. We've got some gains.
I've been making fun of you. All these new hotnesses. Any NFTs yet?
No.
No
I will
NFTs.
not own any NFTs. The whole minting
Your first
process is
NFT will be the
absolutely insane.
DOF NFT.
Yes, yes, and yours,
Right.
you guys will be airdropped.
So
Right.
the overarching project is called Decentralizer Fun, and the first drop is called Games and Gains.
No, we're too broy. We're too broy. We need to.
Okay, yeah. Nice.
Anton, any new
I'll
hotness
think.
for
I'll
you?
think. I'll think about it. I'll think about a couple of suggestions.
Okay. Any new hotness for you?
Not right. There's a couple of one I'm looking real closely, so maybe I can drop some alpha
week.
in future episodes if I end up getting them.
Awesome.
Why is it called alpha? Alpha is like inside or a hint, right? Like why is it called alpha?
If you look at sort of investing, either you invest in beta, you invest in an index, or you invest in alpha, which beats the index.
Got it. Okay, now I understand a little bit because it just sounds so bro-ish.
It sounds very bro-ish.
All right.
Yeah.
With that, I
blame
think,
I blame the finance bros before the crypto bros.
Yeah. With that, I think Tokenomics number 8 is in the bag. Thank you both. Thank you, audience, for listening, and thank you, Recur, for being our first ever Tokenomics sponsor. All right.
Shout out
Bye,
to
friends.
Recur. Bye.